What's the single biggest challenge facing Entain today? How are you tackling it?
Obviously, regulatory headwinds and taxes are our biggest challenge at the moment, especially with the UK. We're focusing on growing that business, heads down, and continuing the success we've had the last few years.
What's the biggest challenge you personally are currently wrestling with in your role as global gaming director at Entain?
I think shifting the mindset of our teams to adopt AI and see it as an ally instead of as a threat to the business. AI adoption, I think, is going to be key for the success of any business, but there's a lot of bad news around it, and it's difficult to get everyone on board with it.
Hello and welcome to the G3 Plus podcast. My guest today is Obdulio Bacaresi, Global Gaming Director at Entain. Obi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Luis. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Before I bombard you with lots of questions, could you give me and our audience a quick overview of what I guess falls under your remit at Entain? What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so I sit in Entain's central product and technology department. I look after primarily the brands on the Entain platform, but we have many platforms across the world that we do content for. And I look after anything to do with gaming content. So that's games, mainly games. Look after road mapping, contracts, integrations, testing, and then publishing of the games onto our websites. As per our stakeholders' requirements. And that covers all our markets on the Entain platform, like I said before, some on the BetMGM platform, and some onto the other smaller platforms like the NLabs platform, where we also provide content. So I'm the main contact between Entain and our suppliers, our gaming suppliers.
Okay, that's no small job. And the title's global as well. So you're looking after everything everywhere. Is that more or less?
Yeah. From a content perspective, yes, we are split in so we've got a product technology function and a commercial function. So our commercial teams are the guys who run the websites, run the promotions on the websites. They have the local knowledge. My team sits in the middle, and we work for them. We provide the content for them that they request. We do the contracts. We do the testing for them. So it's a dual approach.
Okay. So kind of drawing on that global kind of market knowledge and global, I guess, oversight, the jurisdictions currently are in a bit of a state of kind of change and flux from adoption through to adaption, with operators having to consider every scenario. Should you enter, scale, aggressively invest, or even exit? How does Entain approach newly regulating jurisdictions? What signals do you look for to determine whether a market represents a genuine long-term opportunity rather than a short-term rush?
I guess that the main thing we would look at is the size of the market. There are two markets that, even if we don't have a presence or haven't had a presence historically, you cannot ignore just because of the size of the opportunity there. We would also look at whether we have links to that market, either we have a regional presence. So in the case of, let's say, a US state opening, we would obviously go with it because we already have an established US joint venture partner. We would look at brands and whether brands have been in that market before, and whether we could use those brands in a regulated state. But I say most of our markets are now regulated, so we would have that known, and it would be a new market that we would have to go into. So we're pretty much starting from scratch.
Okay.
Some of it is also perhaps a conversion, right? So maybe there'd be a market that is already, we operate in sports, and that is opening casino. For that, it would be easier and logical to just launch a casino. So that decision would be relatively straightforward.
Okay. And you mentioned about when you were talking about your day-to-day activities, the kind of separation of responsibilities and who does what. Who does the kind of ultimate decision fall down to? Is it kind of democratic, or is it one division makes that call, or another part? How does that kind of decision making actually occur?
I mean, the ultimate decision is with our commercial team, that they run the brands, they have the P&L. We have in my central team, we have some expertise, and we're advised on what best approaches. it's not, no, I wouldn't say democratic, but in the sense that we talk together, we all have the same goal, but the decision sits with our commercial partners
Okay.
within
And
Entain.
yeah, and with regulators increasing, just the pressure on established markets at the minute, there's a growing sense that operators and suppliers are exploring new territories. I'm thinking South Africa, UAE, Italy, Canada. There seems to be a lot more discussion and conversation around those markets at the minute. What do you feel is driving that shift, and which of the opportunities, the new markets, new regulation, do you have you see genuine long-term potential?
I mean, every business, and especially a business like ours, which is listed, we have, the market expects us to grow. So we always have to look for growth in either organically in markets or new markets. It's becoming harder to grow some markets, and with taxes increasing in a lot of our markets, UK, Netherlands last year, there's a lot of margin pressure. For us, the stock market doesn't stay still. They expect us to react to that. So that forces us to look in new markets. I would say even if we didn't have that pressure, we would, as a mature business, you still need to look for these opportunities, especially where you already have economies of scale through maybe a platform or brands, like I said before. So I think that's normal part of business. For us, if I look at what's in the horizon for the next 12 to 24 months, Alberta is a big one for us. We have we operate the BetMGM brand there. We also have 2 Entain brands that are launching in Alberta, hopefully when we get the license in July. We have a very strong business in Ontario, and therefore we think we can do very well in Alberta too. New Zealand is an opportunity for us, which is regulating next year. We also have a strong business in New Zealand with a local partner. It's currently just sports. But casino, I think there's talk around 15 casino licenses being available next year, which Entain wants to have.
Okay.
I think we're going to go for 3 brands in that market, and that would be a massive opportunity for us, especially because we have a local team based in Australia, and they know that market well. Yeah, those are the 2 main ones
And
for us.
even if it's like a sports betting foothold that you have in a marketplace, having that local team, how beneficial is it to be able to have that kind of synergy between feeding back information about player expectations, what else is in the marketplace? Is that how they're helping kind of ease that entry?
Yeah, exactly. They will know, simple things like marketing, how to approach the players. I think each regulation has rules on whether you can cross-sell or not.
Right.
So they would have to abide by those rules, but you would, the idea of having a local team is that they know the player better than anybody else. They can tailor promotions. They can, even tailor their own website to how the websites in general in that market operate. And that's the advantage of having those partners.
Which I guess is the advantage of scale that Entain is kind of bringing into each of those kind of newly regulated areas. Transparency is becoming a bigger topic in competitive markets, particularly around RTP, fairness, player information. How do operators balance the expectations with commercial realities? I'm thinking, heavily taxed or regulated markets.
Transparency should be, in my mind, a competitive advantage of those that wish to, give that transparency. So the way I see it is player loyalty is earned primarily through transparency. One of the things we can offer that, maybe others don't want to offer is transparency, and that creates loyalty. So for me, you have the transparency on RTP, you have, clean promotions, and, payment methods that are paying, and these things will help us get the loyalty and the brand loyalty that we want in these key markets. I don't see it as a threat. I think it's irrespective of cost and margins. I think we should always be transparent. And I think it's one of our, in Entain, it's one of the big things we want, do what's right.
And when you say competitive advantage, is that competitive advantage against regulated competition? But is it also up against unregulated competition? Is that where that sits?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily against one or the other. It should be against both. There are quite a number of regulated operators that perhaps aren't as transparent as they should be, in my eyes. But and there may be some other black market operators that are very transparent. I mean, there's some products in the black market where you can see RTP, that live RTP, which on the face of it looks to be very transparent. It should just be irrespective of whether you are on the black market or not, or regulated or not regulated.
And is that a playing field that's even at the moment? So you feel like it's fair, it's even, the competitive environment is something that you can win by the parameters that you've got set in front of you, or does it need to change in one favor or another?
We think it should change, right? We think that we are licensors when we abide by the rules, and everybody should be abiding by those rules. That's irrespective of the industry that you're in. This is not specific to the gaming industry. But we have teams that are working in that front, but at the same time, we need to work with what we have in front of us and make the most and grow with what we can. So no, right now it's not currently a level playing field, but we can't stay still. We still have to compete, and we have to do the best with what we can.
And obviously we're talking about the adjustments to regulatory thing, but obviously tax changes when so much of the ability to make a profit and margin gets pulled out of a marketplace. What significant pressure does that add?
In terms of a listed entity like us, we would have lost a lot of our EBITDA through that tax. It gives those that don't pay those taxes, it gives them an edge in marketing spend. It gives them an edge in bonusing they can give back to players. They can offer different game types. I mean, they can basically use that money to just attract our players. So it's difficult to compete against that, but we will always pay those taxes because we believe in that's the right thing to do. We're a licensed entity, and we just need to find a way to retain those players with the means that we have.
Looking at one specific example of that, I'm thinking of the UK, just as it's entered this new phase of regulatory adjustments and tax changes. We're still very early days in terms of coming in April, but we're already seeing operators leave and exit. How do you think the market is adapting? How are operators adapting to this new environment? And what do you think will be the shape of the UK market in a couple of months or years from now?
I think it'll be more years than months where the change will be seen. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as perhaps it was thought that was going to be months ago. We have seen some of the smaller brands exit the market, but the first reaction of many was to reduce RTPs. I think that was brought about by some operators, and I think the suppliers drove a lot of that because it's convenient for many suppliers, and then it became circular. Right? You find everyone's dropping RTPs. Entain has decided not to drop our RTPs for now. We will sit and wait. I think that's the right decision right now. It's one of the things that push players away to black market operators. The player right now doesn't care about tax. It doesn't get affected by tax. The only change the player will see or has seen would be through an RTP or through promotions. And I think that by lowering the RTPs, we are kind of pushing the player away to find more attractive pricing. Let's just call it pricing, right? Let's not call it RTP.
Okay.
And then we'll just go to where the pricing is better for them. They are savvy players. So I think Entain has made the right decision to keep RTP where it is. It gives us more scope in the future to change it if we need to. But it goes back to maybe the loyalty point that I said before. Right? We're trying to earn or keep those loyal players with us, and I think the RTP is key to doing that. In terms of obviously we have pressure to make up for that, but Entain is growing nicely in the UK. We've had consecutive quarters of growth, so we feel we will do well, and perhaps maybe others won't sustain the long-term impact of that tax increase.
You mentioned years. Is the impact immediately affecting players, or do you think they're growing accustomed? They're testing of the platforms. Are they looking around from if they're feeling that change to RTP? Is there any indication of that happening so far, Obi?
No, not. I mean, the UK player is savvy. It likely already has many accounts. They will know where the gameplay is best for them. You know, that it's not a new market that's changing. It's one of the most sophisticated markets in the world, with the most not what I think is one of the most knowledgeable players. So
Mm.
it will take some time for them to change. But if all the regulated industry pushes these changes through, I think players will move. But I am of the belief that where all things being equal, players would rather play with a trusted, regulated brand like ours
Mm.
than go elsewhere. So if we don't push them away, I think many of them will stay with the regulated players.
Mm. You mentioned about RTP remaining and being stable, which is a really interesting point when there's been so much pressure on that and so much talk around it. Does it do other things change though as well? Does your investment or product strategy change as part of this shift? And does it mean you've got less to play with? More, you're changing tax in any way as a result of this?
The investment will change. I think marketing will drop for sure. We've seen, I think, especially around horse racing, we've seen some operators pull their marketing from some of the horse racing events already. I think we are one of them.
Right.
Right. I think bonusing will become smarter anyway. It was becoming, and with AI, which maybe we'll come to later, that
Yeah.
there are more personalized promotion for players. But I think that will also see a change, and that I think that's natural that we see a change there. Yeah, in terms of how that affects long term, we don't know. But if
Okay.
if if all regulated operators change their marketing, for example,
Mm.
and everyone retains a similar share of voice, it should be okay.
Yeah, but you just need one person to kind of step over that line and
Exactly, and again, going to the point earlier, it's not a fair playing field because there's others who are not paying the tax who can use that
yeah.
funds, to start buying up all that marketing.
Yeah, yeah, which I guess is going to be something again long term that we see that kind of change. But it depends whether who flinches first, I guess, within the operators and how that moves around. You slightly mentioned about AI, and it feels like we can't have any conversation at the minute without talking about AI in some form. It's increasingly being talked about as a tool for everything, from fraud detection, trading to player retention, experiences, safer gambling, etc., etc. Where is AI already making the biggest, do you think, practical difference inside betting and gaming? And how do you see it shaping the player experience into I would say, the near and the far future?
I think a lot of AI is still academic talk. I mean, we are seeing, and if we talk about the journey in Entain, maybe the last 6 months, we've seen an acceleration of AI adoption.
Mm.
Um, Primarily, and I sit in product and technology, so I see in development there's a lot of uses of AI, in terms for development, for testing, for helping us think through ideas, for product ideation, all that stuff. So there's a lot of it being used, and it's saving a lot of time for our teams. Uh, the industry, I think, is miles behind some of the bigger players. Perhaps the US players that spend billions of investments on this, and we're all learning from them. But we'll catch up, and we will make it work for us. In terms of how it affects players, I think long term, every player should have its own agent, right?
Mm.
If we could, you log onto the website, your agent says good morning, good afternoon, and it starts suggesting games for you, or or you can have a responsible gambling actions, or it's just completely personalized for you.
Mm.
A bit like when you're talking to, when you develop a relationship with any of your AI tools that we currently use.
Mm. And is that we're talking about near and far. Are we away from that, or is that closer than we think? Is it farther than we think?
If I'm being honest, I don't think the gaming industry has cracked personalization yet. Yeah, so we're
Right.
miles behind let's say Netflix, which is always looked at, in any discussion of the Netflix is always, or Amazon is looked at. Look how they personalize. I think what similarly we'll have that with AI, but I think what AI does it speeds up adoption.
Mm,
So I think we won't be that far behind that opportunity to have everyone have its own agent.
right.
Cost has to come into it. AI is expensive. I think a lot of the cost is still hidden, but you know, cost not being a problem, I think it would be widely adopted. And it can be used for so many use cases, not just for us, but on the safer gambling, responsible gambling actions that it can take. I think we'll see a lot of value there.
Is it a race to get to that adoption? I mean, to be the first with, does the first operator that comes out with an AI agent that, obviously works, but is that some kind of like moonshot on a, like, I guess, Mars shot? Is that something that, who's the first one to get there? Is there an investment race to get there?
I don't think it's a race, but you cannot be too far behind the first one.
Right. And
Yeah. So it's a bit like the AI models, right? We have one first model. Now everyone has its own model. Similarly, I mean, there'll be an operator that goes live with it. It won't be the perfect product, but it will make some noise, and I'm sure others will very quickly follow behind.
And is it one of those technologies that means that when somebody else adopts it, it's quickly rolled out, or is it you've got an advantage by being first for quite a while because the technology to actually adopt gives you an advantage for a long period of time, or is this something in which it's once you have the first initial adopter, it's quick for everyone to get the technology?
I think it should be quick because you have AI to also on your back pocket in order to get there, right? So it's
Right.
not just AI as a personalization or a player agent, but also you have the AI technology to help you develop that product.
Okay.
And that's the biggest change, I think, with AI, that I think product innovation will be accelerated because, in a matter of days, you can do what previously took teams months. And now if you have something you want, you can see where the goal line, I think AI will get you there faster.
Right. Because one of the questions I had was about, the thousands of games that are now available on modern platforms, discovering obviously the game that suits you as a challenge. That AI agent making recommendations to you about what new game has just released, what would fit your profile, what type of games. I imagine that would be enormously helpful in terms of those lobbies that now seemingly you can scroll for minutes and minutes to try to find the type of game that you want to play.
Yes, and it would solve one of my problems, and it's all our suppliers complaining they don't have top positioning. Um, so we just blame it on the model. Yeah, it's. I mean, and that is the answer, right? Just have all your pages personalized. It deals with not just personalization, but there's also this localization um, argument, right? So Brazilian players like different things, and the UK players like different things. From my role, it makes my role a lot easier. My job will just be offering every game to all of my markets,
Mm.
irrespective of the market it's in, and
Yeah.
then the engine would personalize everything for them. And it's not just one page, which is so how some have rolled out personalization, that they have a container that personalizes all one page, but this would be all of our pages being personalized for that particular player, irrespective of brand or market they're in.
Mm. Would we get into that situation in which we're now seeing kind of Google search just provide one answer instead of it bringing up all the websites that you can possibly previously search? It now just gives you one answer. So you're seeing the one set
hmm
of games for you as opposed to all those set of games. Will that disadvantage? Do you think there would be advantages but also disadvantages to such a system?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to just offer a tiny set of games. I think
Right.
you would recommend a tiny set of games and say, look, these based on your gameplay, or in some cases you would even hit that it can feel what mood you're in, right? And
Mm.
this is what we think you would like, but if not, these are the other options, right? I
Right.
wouldn't want to just limit a few. because then players will be skeptical and they will start saying, "Okay, why are they offering me just these games? You know, what's in it for them that is not that they don't want me to play."
Yeah.
And players are set in their ways, right? You know, they want what they want, and they start to distrust the engine. I'm not a massive fan of my Netflix recommendation engine. I watch a lot of variety,
Mm.
and you know, if I've watched a Danish series, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean I want 7 or 8 more Danish series.
Yeah, yeah. You need a bit of variety in there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Finally, as the industry becomes more global, more regulated, and increasingly technology driven, as we've just been talking about, what do you think will ultimately separate the operators that succeed from those that struggle? Is there something that you have within Entain that means that you're now secure in the way that the company operates? And do you see that some fragility in the marketplace for others who aren't probably maybe following the same pathway?
AI adoption is going to be key. Not just, I mean, not a race to who's the first, but you know, making sure you apply AI to all of the parts of a gaming operation. So, you know, product and tech, you know, personalization, you know, payments, everything, and how we apply AI will be key.
Mm.
Those with you know, big brands. So on the brands, two things I think are going to be really important. You know, your historical strong brands will are important, but I think we've seen new brands enter the market. Even the UK has new brands coming through, and I think over time it's important for a business to launch new brands to attract a younger audience.
Mm.
I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, the AI is so important, because it will allow businesses to be launching fresh new brands, new marketing techniques too. And I think we have to be, we have to look at what other industries are doing in terms of, you know, influencers. So influencers in Brazil were really important, for example. And I think those who adopted influencer marketing at the beginning did get an advantage. I think it's really important for businesses to freshen their marketing approach and always, you know, keep in that trend.
Mm.
So a few things, I would say.
And it just being as global as Entain is, what level of advantage does that give? I mean, obviously spreading the risk of one market to the next, but also I'm going to guess experiences in one marketplace, games that take off that might have similar characteristics to player attractiveness in another marketplace as well. Is that where the advantage, or am I missing something within that kind of picture as well, Obi?
It is an advantage. It's just challenging. In a big organization, and I think this applies to all organizations, right? That I've spoken to other operators, and it's a challenge everywhere. For for people in the middle, like let's say my team, it's how do we facilitate knowledge sharing across the expertise we have in local markets, and we have very strong local teams. So we have a market leader in Croatia. So how does Entain, you know, get those ideas and whatever works in Croatia,
Mm.
how do we share that across our gaming network, you know, for others to learn from?
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, it doesn't apply to all markets, but maybe it does apply to, you know, to Georgia or to, you know, Alberta. And the challenge is always, you know, how do we find time to facilitate that? So that everybody can learn from it.
Well, I think that's a really nice good note to end on. Obi, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with G3 Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.